We are Trifecta. I'm Megan. I'm the brand designer.
I'm Lawrence Bass, the colors and materials designer.
And I'm Gabe Gonzalez, footwear designer.
So we want to start with the Superstar. When we got the challenge, we looked at the shoe, and it's so iconic. It's a great blank canvas because you can kind of put anything on it. It's simplistic, but we also thought about that you, Mr. Anderson, have a lot of shoes. You mentioned that you have over 200 pairs. So we figure you already have some Superstars. So how can we make this personal for you? What can we take our inspiration from? So we looked at it as though we're going into an art gallery. We want to give you something that is so amazing that you'd want to put it on display, that you'd want to have it manufactured and auctioned off to go to some of your charities. So we are inspired to make a masterpiece that is all about you, your life, progression, and your causes. So we wanted to have an idea, we had that image in mind. That was the image we got in our briefs, where you are wearing a suit, something simple, and the shoe pops. So we wanted to take that idea, being in an art gallery, wearing all black, a shoe that pops. So we looked at your life, and the more and more we dug into it, we were more inspired. So 3 words that we really came up with were driven, passionate, and refined. And we think that really explains your evolution in life thus far. So driven, when you're at age 9, seeing your mom at the community college theater, wondering about, maybe I can do this. I can be all these things I want to be, but be an actor instead. And doing that, you had to work really hard. Getting the scholarship to go to Howard, and just constantly having to be the supporting actor and growing as an artist. So then we saw you as passionate, kind of in the middle of your career, as you were growing, keeping pushing, and getting to the next level. Then we saw you as refined. Blackish wins all these kinds of awards now, nominated. We wanted to build off that and how you've given back to the community, supporting youth with your scholarship foundation, working with Art for Life and Russell Simmons Foundation. This was something that we noticed was a huge tie in your life, always giving back where you came from. And that kind of inspired us also to look into art and deeper meanings. When we watched Blackish, we noticed, yeah, it's a sitcom, it's comedy, it's fun, but there's so much more to it, much like art. And when it came to art, we really saw, you mentioned Basquiat, you mentioned Keith Haring, these neo-expressionist artists that use more primary colors and kind of have a deeper social meaning within their paintings that you might not see from far away. Like if we put your shoe in a gallery, you might not see all these details right away. You have an impact, but then you go closer, you find out more. And so now Lawrence is gonna talk more about the art inspiration and how it brought into our color.
So basically, our color palette was inspired by these neo-expressionist style of art that you said that you were a fan of. So Basquiat, when you look at his paintings, primary colors are a reoccurring theme. So we thought that these primary colors represented qualities that we saw in you. So red represents your drive and your hunger coming up as a stand-up comedian. Yellow represents your passion and your determination to strengthen your craft as you became more prominent in TV and film. And then blue represents how you've refined yourself and kind of become more complex and dynamic as a comedian, a writer, a philanthropist, something like a masterpiece.
So diving more into the story, we wanted to take this shoe and kind of give it an exploration. So when you pick up the shoe, you go on a journey. So we start at your youth, we start with canvas, we start at raw, just like how when we saw the Superstar, we saw it open with possibilities. So we start there and we move to an area, we move into the tongue, which is more versatile, more comfortable. We thought about what you need in a shoe in the everyday life. Then we kind of, as you go back, you wrap around the heel, you come to an area that's more refined, where now your work it has so much meaning and it's more than just comedy. You're a chef, you're an executive producer. There's so many different levels, and we wanted to really reflect that in our materials.
Next. Okay. So we wanted to show material evolution from the medial and lateral view to kind of mirror evolution in your life. So the medial view, the upper is made of 10-ounce canvas material, and that kind of represents the foundation of an artist. You have a blank canvas, and your artistry is your artistry is that canvas. So we actually paint it on by hand to represent that raw talent and raw energy and kind of that elbow work that you have to put in to create this masterpiece. Going into the tongue and the tab, Like she mentioned, the tongue is made of a reoprene. It's breathable and flexible, and it's gonna keep your feet from stinking like all of these other people's shoes. And then we have a tab that's made from a flexible webbing, and it has a PU film of red that stripes through the front, and it just kind of pays homage to your favorite color, red, and also relates back to that core value of drive and passion and energy. Next slide. So then as you transition to the lateral view, starts with the heel, where we have a high gloss synthetic leather for stability in the heel. As you transition towards the forefoot, it goes to a flat knit for versatility, breathability, and it creates a beautiful contrast between like something classic and something new. The stripe was executed in a full grain white leather, and that just ties back to a classic element and like an ode to your fashion forward sense. And so the outsole we have painted in a gum sole color. Honestly, we wanted that to be like a core foundation that represents you staying grounded in your principles. And we carried that color up to the front of the shell toe to signify you moving forward in your career and always progressing, always remaining dynamic. Next.
So Anthony, we see you as a very avid forward thinker. You have a wide arsenal of creative tools that you use to really improve the society we live in and provoke a forward-thinking mentality. So what we wanted to do with the lateral view, it really signifies who you are today, how you've come through hardships and become a successful multidisciplinary artist. We wanted to take the stripes and repurpose them and extend them through the eye stay to create, to be reused as eyelets. A more unconventional way of kind of lacing your shoes that way, and also creating a nice sleek aesthetic by hiding your traditional eyelets with the eye stay. If you, on the flip side, crossing over to the medial view, that white canvas, again, representing your youth, we created a one-piece canvas to kind of represent potential in your artistic abilities as a young adult. You touched on, we were inspired by an interview in which you touched on that first experience as a stand-up comedian, as Tasty Tony, the one and only. And if there's another, he's a phony. You mentioned that you were dealing with certain insecurities about being a brand new, striving artist in that stand-up comedy space. And what was interesting to me and what stood out is that you said you dealt with that by actually heckling other comedians, which for me, again, ties back to that unconventional way of dealing with that, because most people who feel slightly insecure kind of stay on the more shy, quiet side. But you actually drew some attention to yourself by doing that. And we can detail that on that red stripe through the pull tab that extends through the length of the tongue as an ode to one of your favorite neo-expressionist artists, Basquiat, and how he used that red line to kind of draw attention to certain words. So much like you drew attention to yourself and became, a thriving artist in that way. In the back of the heel, we wanted to expose that stitching to really create that contrast between one side and the other to represent your transition into who you are today and where you came from as a young artist. And I'll go ahead and bring it back to Megan.
Yeah, so
Next. Sorry.
we really see this as a shoe that kind of takes you forward and really represents who you are as an artist. We were really struck by a quote that we found that says you're a husband, you're a brother, you're a son, you're an artist and a creator. And that's something that we put on in the insole. So every time you look at your red insoles for the red carpet, your favorite color, that passion, you look down and you see your core values, what you're really about. So we think this would be a great piece that you could have in your house, that maybe more could be built and auctioned off to help out charities. And we thank you for your time, and we hope you enjoy our masterpiece for you.